Sapiencia Express today will be calling attention to something that is quite troubling, and it's an issue not just in our communities nationally but also globally. Attention is called to human trafficking today on Sapiencia Express. Now, internationally, the United Nations sets aside July the 31st every year to call attention to this very terrible aspect of human life, while the Americans set aside January the 11th to talk about it. Today on Sapiencia Express, our conversation will be around human trafficking, calling attention to human trafficking, because in Nigeria it is quite a problem. The Japa syndrome is still here with us, especially the month of January, when we know many of the Natads will be preparing to go back. Today, many families will either have left, or some people will either have left, some planning to leave, waiting for the day to come, while some actively in their communities right now looking for which brother or which sister or which auntie, which uncle, they are going to join body to travel out of the shores of this country. Now, the story is the same all over the world, how human trafficking happens. Poverty in a country or in a place. People feel they lack access to human rights. People feel they are oppressed. All over the world, it is still the same thing, where especially young people feel this environment does not do me well, socially or economically, or people are fleeing conflicts, bloodshed, go on and on and on. All of these things happen in Nigeria, where kidnapping for ransom, where murdering people in their numbers, in their communities is an issue. It's an issue in Nigeria because people don't feel safe to travel even to their communities. The Christmas celebration, many people did not spend Christmas in their communities. They travel from wherever they come from, looked for a safe state. For instance, in the southeast, a lot of people stayed at Asaba. Yeah. At least I covered 3 occasions in Asaba where people transported at least 25 people, some 30, depending on how the event. No, not the event. Depending on the kind of relationship they have, because some people grew up at home and they know lots of people at home. Some people are also very rich. They have, when you are rich, you have
many friends,
you have
family members.
There was one that lodged 35 people. I mean, we are there, the people, like a budget. He lodged 35 people in different hotels in Asaba just for them to attend his wedding from his community, right? So it is a problem. Now, when people live in this kind of a communities, it is an issue. Japa syndrome, where even people who are employed feel they are underemployed, feel like this job is not taking me anywhere, and then they want to leave the country. So all of the issues identified globally to be responsible for human trafficking, they are complete in Nigeria. I don't want to talk about poverty. I don't know if anybody has overtaken us, because we worked so hard that we became the poverty capital of this world. Right?
I think India mega overtake.
No, we overtook India. Have they overtaken us again?
No, I think we overtook.
At the speed we are running, I'm not sure India can dare take up. I know. I'm not sure India, at this speed we are running into poverty, I don't think India can overtake us. No, they will try. I know they will keep on trying, but they will see our back. It's not beating us. So these are the issues. And so human trafficking is a very serious problem in our country, Nigeria. Today we talk about it. Today we ask the agencies of government, the NGOs out there, and the role they should be playing. Today we talk about the family, which is the most important unit that can begin to deal with this, especially as it has to do with enlightenment and core values. How can the family come in? How is the family failing? Today we also talk about the media, other institutions, stakeholders that can be out there ensuring that information, because that is one of the key things that can stem this tide. Information is out there. Stories are also put out in public place where people can see that this is not the road, like the nomad, that telling the nomad that this route you're taking is not the route that leads to Mecca. Today we are going to talk about all of that. Today we are also going to talk about the government. And what role is the government playing to speed up this? And what role can the government play? Must the government play to stem the tide of human trafficking in Nigeria? Maybe we can also talk about the forms it manifests, so people who are being deceived, because there are three things that happen. People are being deceived into it, people are being forced into it, and then people are willingly also giving themselves into human trafficking. We'll talk about all of that today on Sapiencia Express. I think I want to, now that it's on the table, I want to talk about this idea of parents giving out their children, right? Because that is one of the major, when you look at trafficking within, when you also look at trafficking outside, but let's talk about that within, because it's a major problem in Nigeria. I think we need to step up on the wall, declare a state of emergency on the number of children families bring to this world. Look, even when we talk about social development, talk about economic prosperity, we will just be making a nonsense of this concept if families are bringing into this country numbers that they can't afford to take care of. So that must be handled. The people I think must begin this. I can't, you can't talk to the victim. You can't also talk to the culprits first. So I must look at other institutions. One of them that can play a very wonderful role are our religious, the churches and the mosques. There must be a deliberate campaign, heightened and sustained, to tell people that it is actually a sin to bring a child into this world and not be able to cater for their physical needs, their emotional needs, their religious needs, and all. And you can't, if you bring in an army, you can't cater for. So that is one. The other one is government should insist. Government tried it. They've tried it in the past. Ibrahim Babangida, during his junta, or his administration, as we like to call it, he tried to make that happen, got some pushback. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan also tried to make that national policy on, also got some kickback. But the duty of government is not only to stand your foot, stamp your feet when you want to rig elections. It is also to do the right thing, no matter who pushes back. Because when they want to rig election and we push back, they insist.
Yeah.
They rig elections. So there is no excuse to say, I wanted to do this, when it's a very good thing, and then you come tomorrow to tell us, well, you see, we wanted to do it, but these guys stopped us. We can't stop you when we want you to do the right thing. So this must be done. And then we talk to enlightened families too. There are people who have gone to school. They're enlightened. But, man, you also see them also cave into this, is that all? Is that all? Who will take after your name and all of that? Right? So sometimes they are looking for numbers, and so they keep giving more. Sometimes they're looking for a daughter, sometimes they're looking for a son. So we need to speak to all of this ignorance. Our traditional leaders too, very powerful group, because this message must be taken down to the Umunna, to the Umuada and everything, such that men, when you invite us sometime to come for something, and then as Umunna, we'll sit you down after we have congratulated you for the birth of your child, and then tell you, oh, guys, should stop now.
You don't do.
Yeah, you don't do. You understand? And I think some men who, if the men are the problem, if Umunna have tried their best, Umuada should come to meet you.
What of this one? It don't do. Hang his boot to give more which you know. Or you want to give me a biggie. Yeah,
no, I understand. That is why they all need to get involved, because at that level we know how to talk to ourselves.
Okay.
Right? We know how to talk. People who are used to fighting over land know how to talk to themselves. Right? And so the church will also come in. Because when the church opens up scripture to make us know that it is a sin not to cater for somebody you brought into this world, I think people will sit up. They must too have their own job to play. Because it is the improper, what do you call it now? Interpretation of the Quran that makes that happen in northern Nigeria. Improper interpretation of the Quran, because the Quran advocates, teaches, insists that you do not bring in people you can't, to a party you can't feed.
Yeah.
Right? And you do not bring in women also that you can cater for, not just financially, but emotionally and in love. And you can't do that for all of these people. So I think if that is done, we are going to reduce the number of desperate parents who want to just take their children to this. So one people, just like you said, that must come into this fight is government. And government will help us in this in two broad ways. One is ensuring that there is good governance. The fact that governance in Nigeria has been reduced to gathering people in a field and giving them rice, the fact that governance has been reduced to better edu and what's her name now? Sadiq Umar, to reduce governance to occasional 5,000 naira and 10,000 naira transfer to people whose name we don't know, whose location we don't know, who we've never seen any of them. The fact that governance has been reduced to giving our children food during the lockdown in their homes.
Have baked food.
In their homes during lockdown, they transported food to them. You know, the fact that we are reducing governance to this, Better Edu told us that during the Christmas period, 20,000 naira was distributed to 3 million homes. The fact that we have reduced governance to this means we don't have money to provide economic opportunities for people, which is what governance is all about. The fact that we do this thing means we don't have money to put our children in decent schools, because that is what governance is all about. The fact that this is what we have reduced governance to, you know, tell the president has given rights to members of the House of Representatives. Did your member give you right? You know, that madness, that the fact that we have reduced governance to this means we'll continue to wallow in insecurity, because it is money meant to fight insecurity that is being distributed this way, you know, filtered away to private pockets, to private accounts this way. And when all of these things continue to happen, the Japa syndrome is simply going to increase.
Of course.
Because the truth of the matter is nobody is talking about governance. Nobody is out there providing good governance. Accountability is out of the roof. And so our children are desperate. Our daughters are desperate. Our sons are desperate. You know,
our mothers too.
Mothers are desperate. No, I'm talking about those who are trafficking themselves. Where mothers and fathers come in is pushing them. But you see, Japa, look, it's almost as if, look, there was a study that was done in, a survey was done in, I think 2020 by the NMA, but it concerned doctors, right? And what they found out was that of every 10 practicing medical doctor in Nigeria, now what I'm talking about, professionals now, people who even have something doing, people who are earning a living, people who are earning a living. Of every 10 practicing medical doctor in Nigeria, 9 were actively, that was the word they used, actively seeking for ways to leave the country. And so actively means he's not just thinking about it, he's not just talking about it, but he's working hard to it. Finalizing papers, documents, this, you know, trying to write an examination, do all of these things to leave the country. Now, that tells you what is happening to those who are just graduating, who are just finishing youth service.
Those who are just graduating work with intention, because someone marketer
to live.
Internship, no internship, 6 months.
That is what I'm saying. I'm saying those who are working, those who you say are employed. You know, I'm not talking about the unemployed now. If those who are employed, who are working, are desperately seeking to leave, desperately working towards it, then imagine those who nobody has even employed. Imagine those seeking for employment. Imagine those who are just graduating. You know, so if the government does not step up on good governance, the problem. The second way government will also come into this is that every agency responsible to deal with the problem of illegal migration is controlled by government. The police, immigration, customs. NAPTIP is also, I don't think, NACTAP is not, but NAPTIP is, NAPTIP is also a lot of government funded and everything. All of these guys need to step up their work, because a lot of times the clues are there. Like every Nigerian knows the route and everything. So for this information to be out there for everybody and people continue to exploit these channels means the government is sleeping on duty. So the government need to come into this and deal, at least begin to deal with the problem this way.
Yeah.
The idea of the value system you know, when we talk about this value system, one of the things that is responsible for this death of our values, of our core values as a people, is greed.
Yeah.
It's greed because it's greed when you don't know how much you can eat. Right? That's greed. That's just the definition of greed. So you don't know. There is an amount. There is an amount of food you should eat. Now, when you eat that and exceed it because of it's a wolf, is greed. You know, because you find very successful ministries or churches. You know, ministries, churches that God has blessed financially. You find ministers, governors, government officials, owners of NGOs who God has blessed. There are different ways God blesses people. So that is why I keep saying God has blessed financially. Because the worst thing that's happened to us as a people is that we are raising a whole new generation who understand blessings to mean
money,
wealth. That's the definition of blessing now. So God has blessed him. If you say that in Nigeria today, it's one thinking. This man, God has blessed this man. Right? So when a man who has raised his children, a decent man, who has maybe put in 31 years in the civil service, helped people wherever he found them, you know, maybe worked in the health ministry and used his position there to ensure that every case that came to him, he attended to it. A medical doctor who has served in a community, and so many women in that community are still alive, save birth, childbirth, courtesy of him. You know, so many children fell sick and are well today, courtesy of him. Right? But then he doesn't have a 2-story building. We are running a society that when we stand in church and say, who are the people who God has blessed? Mentally, we're not thinking of people like that. And our children don't even see people like that. It is not for nothing. We're still talking about value system. It's not for nothing that you see all the super developed nations of this world. You're looking at America, you're looking at the UK, you're looking at France. It's not for nothing that when you take a sample of their school children, what do you want to be on career day? What do you want to be in future? On career day. That 90% of them are going to tell you they want to be teachers, they want to be policemen, they want to be firemen. It's not for nothing. They are building that society. They know that these children are going to get to high school and then their imagination will expand, and some of them will want to be astronauts, some of them want to be CEOs, and all of them. They know. But in every material for teaching children about careers, they limit it to teachers. The reason is very simple. It is not for nothing that when you look at the other time the UK was, it was really an issue where health workers were talking about, going on strike and everything. Yeah. And some people in government in Nigeria and their supporters mostly, were ignorantly telling Nigerians, don't you see? You think it's only a Nigerian problem? You're telling us that, look at the UK people want to go to strike. It is not for nothing that when the government made the increment, those with the highest level were health professionals, teachers. It is not for nothing. Why is this? Because the careers that will ensure our society is stronger, we have a better tomorrow, are these ones. Any occupation, any career that takes care of the community. That is where, you're grooming a future. But then it is not for nothing that when you come to a country like Nigeria, we're talking about values. When you come to a country like Nigeria, you're talking to primary school children. They are looking at money. We have told them, because we think that is all that matters. Now, when you you turn something on its head, it's like even the pen, all right? This is how it should be. When you keep it over time, you see it clicks. When you take a man, stand him on his head. A man should stand on his leg. So that is what we've done to our value system. We are standing the values on its head. The head is valuable. The head is needed. But the feet is made to stand. And then it carries it. But when you put the head down first, it can't carry anything. It dies. So that is exactly what we've done. We are building a society where we are telling everybody that the most important thing is money. We're not telling people, we're not raising a generation that says, okay, you get this right. You get this right. If you get your friendships right, if you get your hard work right, if you get your motivations right, if you get your faith right, money is given. It's
just like seek ye first
the kingdom of God, and after that, the Bible did not just leave it. After every other thing. So we had a lecturer in school who told us this. He said, well, he doesn't waste time arguing with people if there is heaven or hell. That he doesn't waste time doing that. And he doesn't even answer people when they tell him he thinks. He said, but as a social scientist, he knows that he is not looking at whether it's heaven or hell. But it's just, okay, the scriptures that says there is something like heaven now prescribes for you the lifestyle to live to make heaven. He said, so if I die and it turns out that there is no heaven, I lost nothing. I lost nothing. I lost nothing because it simply made me just living under the false belief that there is a heaven made me live a better life. It made me do this. It made me not commit murder. It made me not cheat people. It made me not kill anybody. It made me... so I lived a better life here. Good for me. He said, but on the flip side, if I live my life believing there is no heaven, and I continue to do all of these things, believing that there is no heaven, and then I die, and then there is a heaven.
And there is hell.
And then, and there is hell. So I lost a lot. So that he doesn't argue with anybody. He just says, okay, it could be a lie. But I just like the path this lie is taking me to. Because both here and there, I'm happy. That even if I die after doing all of these things and there is no heaven and there is no hell, but then I lived a bad life. If really it's true that people could step back and look at what they did, and then I see how the things I did, my children suffer for it. How the name, I left them a name that makes them difficult. Is that the life I wanted for my children? And also, he talked about all of these things. I look at my community. Oh, my community should have... So that is just it. I think one of the things we need to start teaching the younger ones is maybe tone down how we tell them everything is a sin, and simply tell them how these things are self-sabotaging habits before they learn that it's a sin. Okay. That this thing... Yes. This thing, if you take this route, this is how it affects you. This is how it makes you a worse person. And then it is a sin. But I think the early teaching that it's a sin, it's a sin. At a point in time, they lose sensitivity. Yeah. They lose sensitivity. They lose all sense of sensitivity. Yeah, there is no fear again. Because slapping my younger brother is a sin. Okay. Taking the meat from mommy's pot is a sin. He has taken the meat. Not greeting daddy, not greeting daddy in the morning is a sin. And so he has committed a sin. So it gets to the point where also telling him that Yahoo is a sin. Okay, I agree it's a sin. So we need to tell them exactly how this sin affects you. How it doesn't make you a better person. It makes you sick. It makes you and all of those things. So that is it. For this idea of trafficking, I completely agree with you that the family, the church, and every other institution, around must step up if we revive our value system. But then there's something I said on radio from, I got that clip from what somebody said. Look, I think we need to start putting the information out there to people, especially to younger ones. Just put the information out there and have people who let them know that there are other ways. There are other ways to succeed in this environment.
Yeah.
Because almost all the narrative out there simply says, doesn't matter how hard you work, this is one society that saps your talent and gives you nothing for it. This is one society that doesn't even respect people who strive hard. And all of those narratives just make people just coming up, just, okay, I want out and I want out, without even taking time. We need to start getting people who have succeeded in business, experts who link our children, open up their minds so that they can see the opportunities that are bound. Because we are living, the Asians, the Chinese, they are all rushing into the country. As our youths are living, those people are rushing in. So
okay, you have on a Nigerian hijab, yeah?
Yes.
If we can't see it ourselves.
We can't see it ourselves, so we need people who can show us the path. I think that will also help reduce the numbers of people who want to desperately leave the country.